Welcome back to another episode of Sean and Ed's Do Baseball.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Ed's.
And we are doing baseball history.
That's right, we're a bi-weekly baseball history podcast where the story catcher doesn't know what the story pitcher is out on the mound throwing them.
And today is my first start of the season.
That's right, it's your first go around, so...
This is going to be extra innings. Let's just say.
Okay, just throwing that out there right now.
I'm going 10 innings.
A complete game, 10. You're Jack Morris in the 91 World Series.
That's right. It's going to be long.
You kind of look like him a little bit right now. Your hair is sticking up like him. You got that pompadour kind of thing going on. You don't have enough hair to have the pompadour, but
no.
The front looks that way.
Well, that's good. As long as I look like him and I don't act like him,
that's
I'm
great.
good with
Yeah,
that.
please don't act like him.
I won't. Wherever you're listening to us, however you're listening to us, Jack Morris, you can find us on social media at Doing Baseball or at Doing Baseball. Give us a follow, give us a review, tell your friends, do all that stuff. And of course...
Thank you for listening.
And of course, thanks to Two Loons Brewing, our favorite beer here at Sean Ned's Do Baseball. Check them out. They got lagers, they got IPAs, they got lots of other good stuff they're brewing up. Check them out at twoloonsbrewing.com. Get them at LCBOs or your local watering hole in Ontario. And of course...
Please be of legal drinking age and of course enjoy responsibly.
All right. I think we got through that.
Yeah, we got through our preamble, our shortened preamble for the 7th season.
There we go. It's straight to the point. If you skip ahead, you gotta skip less. And we do have some rules here on the podcast, and one of those rules, that being February and being almost spring training, but more importantly, being Black History Month, we try to highlight a African-American or black player from baseball history. And today, Eds... I think I got a good one.
I was going to say, it'll be no different this month?
No.
Okay.
No, we're sticking to the rules, and we're going to hear about Lucius Luke Easter.
All right, Lucius Luke Easter.
I think that's his actual middle name, but I know for sure his first name is Lucius.
Excuse me? I thought that was like a shortened... like a shortened nickname version. So it's Lucius Luke is his actual given name.
I think that's what it's listed as on Baseball Reference, but we call him Luke Easter, and so did everybody else.
Okay, all right.
So he was born on August 4th, 1915, in Jonestown, Mississippi.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
It's a big part of this.
So the date is accurate. Usually it's the date that's a little inaccurate.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
There's no birth certificate.
But we know he was born in which town?
Jonestown, Mississippi.
Jonestown, okay.
Possibly.
All right.
Luke, so other places say St. Louis. So
okay.
It's both the date and the place. So Luke was the 5th of 10 children born to James and Maud Easter. His father was a graduate of the Tuskegee Institute, and the Easter family had long been farmers in the Mississippi Delta. I believe dating back to slavery. I'm not 100% on that.
Okay.
But that is,
Farmers or sharecroppers?
Well, probably sharecroppers, right?
Right.
So it was not an easy childhood for Luke, obviously being a black farmer, son of a black farmer in the South, even though his father seemed to be educated.
In Mississippi, no less.
Yeah. He would lose 2 of his siblings, and his mother would die at just 7 years, when he was just 7 years old.
Good Lord, that's a tough start.
Yeah, so the family packs up, and they move to St. Louis.
All right.
His father works at a glass factory. I think his dad's brother was there already, got him the job. Luke attended school, but dropped out after 9th grade. He worked a number of odd jobs, including shoe shiner, worker for a hat maker, and a dry cleaner. But Luke spent as much time as he could playing baseball, however he could.
Right.
His brother J.C. Easter said that he and Luke used to play with broomsticks and bottle caps.
Okay. So it probably made him a good hitter, is what I'm taking from that.
Yeah. Well, he's a good hitter. Easter clearly played a lot of ball with his brothers, who were also really good, on the sandlots of St. Louis. But Luke would get his start in organized baseball not through school or in the professional ranks, but through a job.
Okay. That was kind of common back then.
Yeah.
Lots of company teams back in these days.
Yeah, so we're in the 1930s, and Luke played for the American Titanium Company in St. Louis. I'm not sure if they scouted him or if he just happened to be upon the job and tried out for the
They're
team.
like, fuck, this guy's good.
Yeah. All the workers that played on the team worked for the company year-round, but were given time off for baseball and baseball training.
Oh,
Easter.
I would love to have a job like that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Easter's career began in 1937, where he played first base and outfield batting cleanup for the Titanium Giants, as they were known.
Okay, that's a sweet name.
Yep.
Although, like, again, we've mentioned this before, but, like, just no originality. Like, they just copy anybody that's good.
What? The
Like,
Giants?
Yeah, like,
Oh,
everyone's the Giants or the Cubs or whatever. Well, not the Cubs, I guess,
I
but...
thought you were being specific. You're like, the company always copies everybody.
No.
What?
What do you know about
them?
I've been to St. Louis.
I realized my off game. I got to crack a beer. Not during our promo. So Luke was not a small man, and I'm sure his time working at the Titanium Company helped build his physique, which was an imposing 6'4", 240 pounds.
Okay, so he's a very big boy. I think, I don't know. I've never actually lifted anything titanium, but I know it's a strong metal. So I assume it's kind of heavy?
Yeah, I think he's just big.
Anyway.
I think he comes from.
Well, it couldn't have hurt. It couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
He was a presence, to say the least, and would slug moonshots batting from the left side of the plate.
Okay.
So, Ryan Howard, Jim Thome, I think those guys are the comps I would give this guy.
All right.
For just, like, how far he could fucking hit the ball and how big he was.
Okay.
Both those guys are 6'4", 240, 250.
Yes.
Easter was clearly good, but a bit unlucky with his timing coming up in St. Louis. The St. Louis Stars were members of the original Negro League, but the league had disbanded after 1931 when Easter was most likely around 16 years old.
Okay.
With the Major League gone, the Titanium Giants filled the void in St. Louis, and an attempt to bring back the Stars in the Negro American League didn't last. Most likely because the Giants were a more talented team.
Right. Not to rub it in to St. Louis fans, but they're used to their teams leaving. So.
Yeah. The Titanium Giants, although a company team, were much better than most of the league. They defeated 6 Negro American League teams in exhibitions in 1940 and regularly won 90% of their games each year.
Oh, okay. So they're good.
Very good.
Yeah.
So they don't always play the cream of the crop, but
Right.
winning 90% of your games, whatever. It's baseball. It's crazy. Easter, if you're following Eds, he's around 25 years old, we think. Although not in the majors, he is a massive dude hitting cleanup on basically the best company team in the country.
Okay.
So why wasn't Easter signed elsewhere? Well, his teammate and awesomely named Jesse Askew said that Easter was unlucky in not getting an earlier shot at the Negro Leagues, primarily because he played poorly in exhibition games against teams like the Kansas City Monarchs.
Oh shit. Okay. So he would never rise to the occasion when there were people there to watch.
No.
I got you.
No.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Easter, his baseball career would just have to wait. In 1941, Luke was in Jesse Askew's or possibly Sam Jethro's car on the way to a road game when they got into a serious accident. Easter would suffer a broken ankle and missed the end of the 1941 season.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. And
Although I hear a broken ankle is better than a sprained one.
Sure.
I guess. Apparently it heals faster. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not a doctor.
It's the end, and this is going to bother him for a while. So World War II starts that off season, and the Titanium Giants were disbanded. Easter would not play baseball again until after the war.
All right.
So he's drafted into the Army. The National Archives list him as being inducted into the Army on June 22nd, 1942, and stationed at Fort Leonard in Wood, Missouri. The ankle injury, though, proved to still be bothering him, enough so that Easter would be discharged on July 3rd, 1943. So he's only in the Army a year, and they're like, yeah, your ankle's fucked.
Yeah.
You just leave.
Yeah, all right. Well,
So-
that works out for him, I guess.
Yeah, he more than likely worked at a shipyard in Portland, Oregon then for a couple of years before somehow going to Chicago and working at a war chemical plant.
All over the place. How did he end up in Portland?
I don't
Anyways,
know.
okay.
I'm just following the breadcrumbs here during his war years because after he gets discharged, he's kind of in the wind for a couple of years.
Okay.
But he ends up in Chicago during the summer of 1945. Now that the war is over, Easter, I have no idea how, but he approaches Candy Jim Taylor, manager of the Chicago American Giants Negro Leagues.
Okay.
He didn't want him.
Interesting nickname.
Yeah, he didn't want him because he was too big and too awkward.
Okay, you're too muscle bound, buddy. Stop
Yeah.
lifting so much titanium.
I think it's also he had no he's just his ankle injury at this point too. I think that's the awkwardness is
Right.
You'll see by the end of this guy's career.
Looks like one leg is shorter than the other.
Yeah, he's just stands at first base and prays the ball doesn't get
Okay,
hit to him.
right.
So he
Little
can smash
Scott
some home
Hatterberg.
runs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead, Taylor directed Easter to Abe Saperstein, the future founder of the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, interesting.
But he was starting a new baseball team, the Cincinnati Crescents, and Easter proved to Taylor the only thing too big about him was his home runs.
Okay. Are they like you know what I mean? Are they like the Harlem Globetrotters except on the baseball field?
No,
they're just a regular team.
This is pre his idea to start the Globetrotters.
Oh, okay.
This is in 1946.
Okay.
In fact, one of his
I don't know when the Harlem Globetrotters got started.
I think it was in the 50s.
Okay.
And one of Easter's teammates actually on the Crescents would be one of the first Harlem Globetrotters.
All right.
So the Crescents would not be adopted, though, by the American Negro League, and instead they barnstormed the country, often playing the same teams in exhibitions because of the stats are flawed. We don't know exactly how Easter did in 1946 for the Crescents because technically he wasn't on a major league team. But do you want to guess what the Sporting News reported Easter's batting line was in 1946?
I wouldn't have the slightest idea.
He hit .415 with 74 home runs.
Oh my God. All right. How big were the stadiums?
Well, no matter what his stats actually were, it was for certain Easter was hitting piss missiles in 1946. His teammate Bob Thurman described a center field blast Easter hit at the Polo Grounds in New York against the New York Cubans.
Uh-huh.
The Polo Grounds was 480, I believe.
I was going to say, like,
center field.
it's tight in the corners, but if you hit it to center or, God forbid, left or right center,
Yes.
like, that's got to go a country mile.
Thurman said he hit it halfway up the stands, about 500 feet.
Holy
The
shit.
thing about it was a line drive.
Oh my God. So, like, not even on the descent yet, basically.
483 to dead center field, and he hit it up the stands on a line drive.
Yeah, a frozen rope.
So Easter made a huge impact out of nowhere in 1946 because
No
everyone's
kidding.
like, who is
Yeah.
this guy? Big enough that in 1947, Easter was signed by the Homestead Grays for a reported $1,100 a month, making him one of the highest paid players on the team.
I was going to say, that's a pretty good salary.
Yeah. He also seemingly made good money as well, cheating the owner of the Grays, the aforementioned Composy, at cards. And I mean, aforementioned Composy from
previous episodes.
Ray Brown, a teammate, said, and I quote, "Luke was powerful. The only dislike I had for him whenever we played, he used to beat the owner out of his money while we were on the road. They played knock rummy. They used to cheat each other, and Luke used to beat him. We prayed that we could get it paid before Luke got to seek Posey."
So they're both cheating in this game somehow?
They're both just, it's like his best hitter and the owner
Yeah.
just like playing cards on the bus and them just like finding
not
ways
getting
to fuck each other over.
And they're not getting upset with each other because they're like, fuck, I was cheating
But the
too.
players are like, damn it, Easter's winning all of our money.
Yeah.
Posey's going to fuck us and not pay us.
Yeah.
So finally, in 1947, at nearly age 32, Easter is in a league with proper stats, and you can 100% see what he could do. Except that all depends, because the stats are all over the place. I even reached out to a few people to try to figure out Adam. Adam, I think it's Devensky. I'm fucking up your name, Adam. I'm so sorry, but yeah, he gave me some more insight, just how Baseball Reference covered it. If you look overall in some places, it'll say in 219 at-bats, he hit 10 home runs with a .311 batting average. But his Baseball Reference page puts it at a more pedestrian 269 batting average with just 5 home runs and 223 at-bats.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so not...
Adam Dorowski, by the way.
Dorowski, thank you so much, Edsy. I'm so sorry, Adam. That winter, Easter headed south and put on a show for the last place Venezuela Patriots during winter ball, slugging .681 with 8 home runs and 5 doubles plus a triple in just 27 games.
Jesus.
He returns to the Grays for 1948 after his crappy-ish debut and put on a show, no matter what stats you look at. From his Sabre bio, I quote, "The following year, he recorded a batting average of .363 with 13 home runs, which tied him with teammate Buck Leonard for the league lead. He also led the National Negro League with 62 RBIs. Most impressively, in only 58 games, the 6'4", 240-pound Easter legged out a career-high 8 triples, helping the Grays to the Negro League World Series championship. After the season, he was chosen to play in the 1948 East-West All-Star Game."
All right. Well, that's a lot of triples, man.
That is a lot of triples.
But I imagine it was only like 4 or 5 steps for him between each base. So,
and yeah, if you hit the ball 450 and it's still in the ballpark, that tends to be a triple as long as you're not slow as molasses. So.
True.
But once again, if you look at his Baseball Reference, you see he destroyed, but his numbers were much more restrained. He hit .319 with a .549 slugging percentage and a .982 OPS, but instead of 13 home runs, it has him listed at just 6, and instead of 8 triples, just 3. Regardless, in a very short season, Easter put up 2.3 Baseball Reference WAR in just 41 games, which would work out to about a 9 WAR season.
Very, very good.
Yeah. Easter continued to dominate in winter ball, as well as playing in the aforementioned Venezuelan League. He also played in Hawaii and Puerto Rico over the winters as well, not all at once.
Obviously.
Over 3 years playing for Mayaguez in Puerto Rico, he amassed 48 home runs, 145 RBIs, and a .330 batting average, leading the league each year he played in home runs. His best season was 1948 and 1949, when he was named MVP, batting .402 as the team won the championship.
All right, so he's a superstar.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. He's not quite translating to the Grays the same way, but he is definitely, like, everywhere he goes, he's bashing it.
Yeah, for our Canadian minor hockey players, he's like the best house league guy.
Well, yeah, a little better than that, but
wow.
yeah.
Anyway.
But yes, Major League Baseball is in the midst of integration at this time, and Easter seemed primed to be signed by a big league club. But who would want a 33-year-old player?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but you could sign him for a couple years. Like, he seems to be doing all right everywhere he goes, so.
Well, in either way, Easter figured that this was going to be an issue getting him to the major leagues.
Right.
And he decided to make a simple fix. He was not 33, turning 34. Luke Easter, knowing he did not have a physical birth certificate, decided, Eds, he was 27.
All right, well, that makes sense, I guess. I guess that's what you would do.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have any proof, any physical proof that proves you're older than you are, you can just make up whatever the hell you want.
So he just says...
He was like, I look too old to say I'm 22, so we'll go somewhere in the middle.
Exactly. And remember, yeah, just, people are looking for franchise guys that they can sign for 10 years.
True.
Right? So anyway, so He decides that his birthday's August 4th, 1921, and that is exactly what he told Bill Veeck, who owned the Cleveland Indians.
Oh, yes.
Easter would maintain the facade for years, eventually referring to 1921 as his baseball birthday.
Okay.
Veeck had already signed Larry Doby and Satchel Paige at this point and decided to sign the big power-hitting 27-year-old Easter to join them. Easter would not earn a spot right away. He's assigned to Cleveland's Pacific Coast League affiliate, the San Diego Padres.
Oh, wow.
Easter was only the second black player to appear in the Pacific Coast League. So he's breaking barriers. Like, it's not as big a deal with Cleveland because he's the third guy in a year or two.
Yeah.
But in the PCL, he's the second ever, and I believe the first for the Padres.
Yeah.
So that's some history there.
Okay.
For a team that's still around in the majors and not just in the PCL. So he told President Bill Starr of the Padres not to worry because everyone likes me when I hit the ball. And he's right. The team set records for attendance early in the year, and Easter became one of those guys people would show up hours before the game just to see him hit BP.
You know what they say, Sean?
What?
Chicks dig the long ball.
Chicks dig the long ball. He got laid. I don't really.
You're just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, he has a wonderful wife that he meets. I don't really talk about his personal life too much because his career is just so fucking long. We'll get to it. But, yeah, he definitely got laid. Sporting News reported that crowds to see him take batting practice were equal to only of those that turned out to see Stan Musial, Ted Williams, and Ernie Lombardi hit the ball. In one of 3 games in Los Angeles, in a 3-game stand in Los Angeles, Easter hit 6 home runs in the 3 games. Fights broke out at the gates as fans clamored to watch him hit.
All right. You weren't kidding.
From Kevin Nelson's book, The Story of Baseball History, everything about Easter was big. His home runs, his personality, his luxurious Buick automobile. He liked for his teammates Artie Wilson to act as a chauffeur and let him sit in the back seat so that when he was driving around town, people would think he was a big shot. A big shot was passing by. A woman who knew him, and there were more than a few of those, described him as free-spending, party-loving, a party-loving personality as flamboyant. He's just he's a
playboy.
He's a playboy. He's having a great time in California.
I mean, he was making $1,100 a month.
I think he might be making less than that now.
Yeah, but still, at one point he was making $1,100.
He's got a fancy Buick, and he's getting his white teammate to drive him around.
Yeah, that's that stands out.
Yeah. So unfortunately for Easter, what would be referred today as lower half injuries began to take their toll. We know he had a bum ankle from the crash in 1941, and his legs continued to take a beating.
Bill Veeck was like, look, man, I got no problem with this. I'll tell you what to do. If you get that replaced, I got some paint so you can tan it.
And I should say, I am so sorry. Artie Wilson is not a white baseball player. Artie Wilson is a black baseball player.
Okay, so that doesn't stand out as much. But still. He's driving around having a chauffeur is an impressive thing for a young lady, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I took a jump there and I was wrong. So we know he had a bum ankle, but he also suffers a right knee injury on an on-field collision. And then he has the same knee, his right knee, his kneecap gets broken by a pitch.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
I couldn't find much. It was rumored that the pitch might have been because he was black. Not 100% sure. But he did get hit by pitches a fair amount in that first year in the PCL.
Okay.
At the end of June...
It adds up.
Yeah, despite the injuries, after 80 games, Luke Easter was hitting a ridiculous .363, getting on base at a .460 clip, and slugging .722 with 25 home runs and 92 RBIs. Jesus. In June.
Just June.
This is like MLB The Show June numbers.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's playing on rookie mode.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly would like when he was hitting, if that's what the quote that he said earlier was.
He's like, calm down. Racism aside, I can hit the ball.
Yeah.
It looked like Easter was ready for the big leagues, but before that, Easter's knee required surgery. Easter was off for only 6 weeks after the surgery, and he made his MLB debut in August. Cleveland waived the popular Allie Clark in order to make room for him on the roster, and on the August 11th, 1949, Easter, secretly 34 years old, coming off knee surgery, became the 11th black player in MLB history.
Okay, that's pretty early.
Yep. Whether because of the injury or just because of their loaded roster, remember Cleveland's wicked at this time.
Yeah.
Cleveland used him as a pinch hitter at first base. Easter at first. He just is a pinch hitter. They don't really use him that much for the first month.
Right.
He pinch hits 8 times. He finally starts a game on August 28th. Whether it was the lack of plate appearances or the knee injury or Easter just pressing in his first stint in the big leagues, he came nowhere near his numbers with the Padres. In just 54 plate appearances for Cleveland in 1949, he hit .222 with 0 home runs.
Okay, not even close. But you did mention that he kind of folds a little bit under pressure and under the spotlight. And on top of that, he would be facing like the best possible competition that you could possibly face.
100%.
And he's 34.
And he's coming off knee surgery.
Yeah. A lot of factors there.
So fans were quick to show Easter their displeasure because, of course, Vec had been hyping up Easter to the media.
Oh, and that's true. You know, they say if you want to destroy someone, make them famous.
Exactly. There's like 25 home runs in 80 games. 25 home runs, and then he shows up and hits 0, even though they don't use him at all.
Yeah, they don't really give him the playing time to get going, so to speak.
And it's like the worst stretch of his career. Let's just put it that way. The Sporting News named him the most booed player in the history of Cleveland Stadium.
Oh, man. There's probably a lot of booing going on in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, before this era, anyway.
Yeah, up until 1949.
Yeah.
He was the most booed man, apparently. He replied professionally, and I think that's one thing you'll learn. Easter's a professional. He replied about the booing, and I quote, "I hear them, and I don't hear them. If I hit, they'll like me. If I don't hit, I don't deserve to be in the lineup."
All right, well, that's true.
Yeah. Tris Speaker said of Easter's situation, "The poor guy came up and under the worst possible conditions. He had nothing to do with the condition that made him the target of the boo birds."
Okay.
So his teammates feel for him. They're like, "Yeah, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
You're coming, like you're hurt and you're just trying too hard. Everything's fine."
They're kissing his ass so they could get a ride in that Buick.
I'll drive. Yeah. Tris Speaker's driving me around town. Yeah. Everyone's just booing him. Yeah. Instead of...
There's something comical about my appearance.
Easter would rebound the following year. In spring training, 1950, he led the team with a .333 average. And adding to the mysticism of Easter, it was said in the August 1950 Negro Digest that in a spring training game between Cleveland and St. Louis, Browns pitcher Ned Garver thrust his glove in the way of an Easter line drive and was knocked off his feet by the momentum.
All right. So it was a cannon.
Yeah, well, he hit the ball so hard that right at the pitcher that the pitcher caught it, but he fell down on his ass.
Right.
Despite his hitting in spring, he started his first 8 games going just 5 for 26, along with a healthy 6 walks. But fans didn't care about on-base percentage, especially then.
No.
And with just 1 extra base hits and no home runs, the Boo Birds returned.
Ooh, okay.
Easter finally would break out. May 6th, he blasted his first American League home run off Allie Reynolds of the Yankees. That game was game 1 of a doubleheader, and Easter would go deep again in game 2.
All right. Did that shut them up?
A little bit. He literally had almost the most... This would shut them up. Yeah, this would shut them up. This is the most 3 true outcome day I think I've ever seen in baseball history. If you look at this, that day in New York, he had 8 plate appearances in the 2 games. He had 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 2 home runs, and a double.
All right. It is, as you said, the most 3 outcome day
All he needed was that double to go a little bit further.
Yeah.
and it's 2 walks, 3 Ks, and 3 home runs.
Yeah.
But he did he kind of like had an okay May, but in true Edwin Encarnacion fashion, Easter celebrated the month of June with dingers.
Okay, that is very Edwin. I think his big month was usually May, but
No, it was June.
Was it June?
Look back. He had 16 home runs in June back in like 2016
Okay.
or something like that.
Okay.
Regardless, he slugged .670 with 11 home runs in June that year and batted .331. He hit a 477-foot home run at Municipal Stadium on June 23rd, 1950 off Joe Haynes of the Senators. That would be the longest home run ever hit in that stadium's history.
okay, and that's a big park too.
That's a big park. So he shut up the Boo Birds at this point.
Yeah.
Harry Jones wrote in the Cleveland Plain Dealer, I quote, "With a bazooka blast that made 26,629 witnesses gasp, Luke Easter wrote home run history at the stadium last night. A ball has never traveled into that sector of the upper stands, either in right or left field."
All right, so he's a groundbreaker there.
Yep. So Cleveland would grab the chair that he hit, whatever, and like put it on display all over town and stuff like that. It's kind of weird to take it out.
Yeah.
But they did. Anyways, so despite his slow start, June turned everything around, and Easter would go on to hit 28 home runs and drive in 107 for the Indians in 1950. His on-base percentage was a great .373, but part of that was because he led the league also in hit by pitch. One may think him being black may have had something to do with that as well.
And also him being so big.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely people just being like, whoa, hit the biggest guy.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even saying that. It's just that with him being so big, there was a lot more of him to hit.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair, and he was slow as fuck.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm 28. Crutches. Despite the hate he received, Easter was a gentleman and would sign autographs for hours and even make appearances at local Sandlot games. It was really hard not to love him. His teammates everywhere he went would also thought the world of him. Minnie Minoso once recalled, "He was such a nice man. I didn't speak good English, so he'd take me to restaurants and other places in order to translate for me."
Okay.
He's just a nice guy.
Yeah.
In 1951, Easter injures his leg again.
Oh, God.
This time he tears a tendon in his left knee. But despite missing just 26 games because of the injury, he manages to put up similar numbers to 1950. He hits 27 home runs, 103 RBIs, both team highs for Cleveland, who finished with 93 wins, but still 5 behind the Yankees for the AL pennant.
That's disappointing. But, man, like, he just must be so big and powerful that even at, like, 80% strength, he can just give it a little tap and it gets over the wall.
Just taps some home runs.
Yeah.
He starts extremely poorly in 1952. In the first 2.5 months, he hits just .208 with 11 home runs, 6 doubles in 241 chances. Easter gets demoted to AAA Indianapolis, where he immediately hits .340 with 6 home runs in 50 at-bats.
Jesus.
Yeah. And they're just like, all right, back to Cleveland.
Yeah. Call him again.
He homers in his first game back, and the rest of the season, he ends up hitting 20 home runs, and he gets on base at a 400 clip in the second half, because he's Luke fucking Easter.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, he's named the American League's most outstanding player by the Sporting News. Hank Greenberg, who's Cleveland's GM at this time, marveled at Easter's turnaround, and, quote, "His comeback is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. 6 weeks ago, the snap in his swing was completely gone. They thought he'd never come back."
All right. Those are good praise there by Hankus Pankus.
Yeah. And Hankus Pankus, maybe. I don't even know how to make this transition. I fucked that up. Easter starts a sausage company.
Okay, that's...
No.
That's not at all. That's not even close to anything I was expecting you to say next.
No.
So he became the sausage king of Cleveland.
Yeah, he had gotten married at this point, and with his brother-in-law, Raymond Cash, they start a sausage business. And although it got off to a rough start, became a success. And in fact, Ray's Sausage still operates in Cleveland.
All right, I'm going to have to get a Ray's sausage at some point.
Yeah. Easter would gift his teammates tons of sausages for the rest of his when they did well. He was like, "Yeah, have some sausage."
Yeah. Sounds like a great team to be on. Bill Vex, the owner.
No, I don't think
Vex, not the owner at this point. He'd been run out of town at this point.
I forget. I should have listened to those episodes. But he sold Easter ends up getting him and his brother-in-law's sausages at the stadium, and he said, "I can make this business go by hitting lots of home runs. Even if our sausage makes $1 million, I won't quit baseball. I'll stay in baseball as long as I can walk." And literally ends, "That's why this is so fucking long."
Okay. All right. Well, he keeps going into the shop for spare parts every time he gets injured. So
I just thought I'd throw that sausage stuff out there to get to that quote.
Okay. Nice.
Unfortunately, despite the longevity of the business and the timing at first wasn't great, as the 1952 season would be the peak of Easter's career in Cleveland. Father Time, more than leg injuries, began to take a serious toll on Easter's game, slowing him down to the point of immobility and sapping his power.
All right.
He was struck by a pitch in the fourth game of the 1953 season, breaking a bone in his left foot. The injury hobbled him for the remainder of the season, and he was only able to appear in 68 games. He did hit .303, but he just had 7 home runs. And for whatever reason, maybe racism, once again, I couldn't find it, but Al Lopez didn't seem like a good dude. He decided he's a new manager in Cleveland, Al, and he decides, he's like, fuck it, I don't need this guy.
Okay. So what does he do?
He's released.
Oh.
After the 1953 season.
Like did he ask for his release?
No, sorry if I didn't put that clearly. Al Lopez is the new Cleveland manager.
Yeah.
And when he comes in, he manages him for a year, and he's like, I don't need this guy.
Yeah.
So he's cut.
Okay.
He cuts. The coach cuts him.
I thought you meant that Easter was like, I don't need this bullshit. I'm out of here. I'm 57 years old.
No, yeah. I there was a reference in one article I read that's something to the point where Lopez didn't care for black players. But at the same point, I couldn't find anything strongly attributing that. But regardless of what the reason was, and you could give Lopez a little bit benefit of the doubt that, Easter was banged up. Even though he hit, whatever, 303.
Yeah.
He's released October 1st. He's invited back to spring training, though, just to be like, well, maybe we'll see how you're doing next year. Mm-hmm. But it didn't go well. He's injured again, and this time has an infection in his toe.
God, he's
all lower.
I was going to say, it's all lower body injuries. Like, maybe the strike zone is below his waist, so...
So, he makes the team, but he only gets 6 pinch hit appearances, and he's optioned to the minor leagues. His final big league appearance came on May 4th, 1954, at the secret age of 38, but everybody thinks he's 32.
Right.
Luke Easter was out of the big leagues, but far from done with baseball.
All right, you mentioned that.
So Luke splits the year playing half with the Padres in the PCL, as well as the Ottawa A's in the AAA International League.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that Ottawa had a AAA team in the International League.
Yeah, me neither. Definitely something to dig into. But 122 games, he hits 28 home runs again with a .313 batting average and, of course, a .411 on base percentage. So he's still released outright at the end of the year by Cleveland, even though he did that in AAA.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
He goes down to Mexico that winter and decimates baseballs, hitting 20 home runs in 224 at-bats.
Holy shit. This guy's like the best player ever at every level he goes to.
Dude, if he got a chance from when he was 20 years old.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Jim Thome. Yeah. Ryan Howard. Not kidding with those.
No, those are great comparisons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the spring,
he's like an MVP caliber player.
100%. In the spring of 1955, Easter was signed by the Charleston Senators of the American Association and put up Luke Easter numbers with 30 home runs and a .408 on base percentage in 144 games. That winter, he continued to make pitchers lose confidence, bashing 17 home runs in 191 at-bats in winter ball. So maybe your House League comparison earlier did work for winter ball at least, where he just decimates people.
Right.
In winter ball every year, he just like goes down and hits 20 home runs in like 30 games, and it's just like, okay, back up.
Yeah.
He would find a new home the next year with the
Buffalo Bisons.
Yay!
It's always the Bisons.
1956, the Bisons had just declined to renew their contract with the Detroit Tigers and were struggling as an independent franchise. They signed Easter, as he was the first black player to play for the Bisons since Frank Grant in 1888.
Holy.
Yeah.
That's a bit surprising. A little bit. But.
So Easter signs a $7,500 contract to play for the Bisons, and that is where he made a name for himself. If you don't look at his baseball birthday, and you go from his real birthday, from age 40 to 42, 3 full seasons, he hits 113 home runs for the Bisons.
Man, he just never stops.
Yeah, he's just
like he keeps getting injured, and it just does not affect him at all.
He's good for 30 home runs and a 400 on base percentage.
Yeah, I'd love to have a guy like this. The Blue Jays need a guy like this right now.
Right now. We'll bring up Luke Easter.
Yeah, like resurrect that man right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Anyway.
So his moonshots became that of legend, and fans flocked to see him hit balls into the Buffalo night. Buffalo baseball historian Joe Overfeld tells stories in 100 Seasons of Buffalo Baseball. I quote, June 14th, 1957, I quote, Easter swung, timed the pitch perfectly, and sent it soaring high and deep to center field. As the ball disappeared into the haze, there was a mighty roar from the crowd as many fans realized at once what had happened. Luke Easter had just become the first batter ever to hit the ball over the center field scoreboard.
Holy jeez.
As Easter completed his lumbering home run trot, deadpan all the way, the cheering and applause reached decibel levels never previously attained at the old park.
I mean, I'd be cheering if I saw something like that.
Yeah, according to sports...
Sounds like he hits the balls and they friggin' land in Niagara Falls, for God's sake.
So according to Sports Illustrated, the ball had traveled in an arc of approximately 550 feet.
Good Lord.
It concluded by crashing triumphantly through the window of Irene Ludke, who lived across the street from the stadium and who thought for sure someone had dropped an atom bomb on the roof.
That's how paranoid people were at this time.
I thought it was the Russians. No,
like,
it's Luke.
Yeah. It's Luke Easter, baby. This chick did not dig the long ball.
No. Apparently he hits a home run like that twice in Buffalo over the center field scoreboard.
All right.
They
don't play at... It's not like at the same... Yeah.
No.
I mean, obviously it's not Salem Field, but I just wondered if it was the same location.
I'm not 100% on that.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
You could reach out and ask Joe Overfeld. So he wins International League MVP award with the Bisons in 1957 after smashing 40 dingers. He even... More ridiculous side story. This one's just fucked. This is why we do this podcast. 1958, Satchel Paige was in the league with him. And Satchel had run afoul in traffic court.
Okay.
The judge told old Leroy he would spend 20 days in jail when the International League season was over, but gave him the opportunity to work off his time in this manner. 1 day less for each hit he makes, 1 day less for each run he scores, 1 day less for each win he pitches, and 1 day less for each time he strikes out Buffalo's Luke Easter.
Okay, the legal system is flawed, as you can see. I mean, it sounds like he didn't really deserve any jail. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the actual crime was in traffic court, but 20 days in jail.
Yeah. You're just trying to make him play better.
Yeah, exactly.
He shouldn't get anything.
You're like, you know what? He was speeding a little bit, but I know how we can make the Bison season turn around here.
I don't know if it was, yeah, but Easter, when asked by the media, said if that judge wanted to make it just right, he should have said Satch would get an extra day in jail for every hit I get off of him.
Okay.
That would have kept Leroy in the meal money next winter.
Yeah.
I don't know what that last part means, but
I'm sure that's a metaphor.
Yeah. So, anyways, Satchel Paige, failed to strike out Easter that year and complained about Luke's ability to control the strike zone. I quote, "That Luke don't exactly fall down when I give him that bat dodger."
All right. That's a wild story, man.
That is. So after the 1958 season, Bison signed an agreement with the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Phillies had a prospect named Francisco Herrera, who was a big right-handed hitting first baseman, and his development was more important than giving a now 37 but actually 43-year-old Easter at bats.
Uh-huh.
On May 14th, 1959, Easter was sold to the Rochester Red Wings for $100.
All right. Are the Red Wings, I mean, I don't know if you know this, are the Red Wings affiliated?
Because
Because it seems like you say, you know, when he's as old as he is, if they're an affiliated team, like as you say, that spot should probably go to someone who is developing.
Yeah.
And not to, you know, it's understandable when he was in the Bisons independently.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're trying to put asses in the seats, and hitting the ball over the scoreboard would certainly do that, but...
Yeah, I don't know.
That doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter that much, but he is signed. I think they're with St. Louis. They are affiliated with the Cardinals.
Okay, would make sense.
Yeah. So he gets sold to them. His legs are beat up. His eyesight was going, but he still continued to play well into his late.
There's your
40s.
first upper body.
Man. So he still hits 22 home runs and drives in 76 in 1959. He followed that with 14 home runs in 1960. He was truly a hero no matter where he played, and once again was said to be generous with his time when it came to Rochester fans. The Wings had Luke Easter Night in 1960, which drew over 8,000 fans.
Mm-hmm. And everyone got a sausage.
They might have.
Yeah.
Easter received a color television set, fishing equipment, a $300 wristwatch with diamond numerals, a movie camera, luggage, and even a frozen turkey, and somehow they gave him 5 pounds of sausage.
All right.
It's like, I don't need this.
Yeah, it's like, I have 5,000 pounds of sausage at home.
Rochester manager Cott Deal would say of Easter, he was very popular with his teammates wherever he played. He slowly finished his career, holding on for another 3 full seasons.
Holy shit.
Adding 45 home runs to his career totals from 1960 through the last full year, 1963, which he finally finished at the age of 48.
All right.
He pinch hit.
Quite impressive, man.
He pinch hit in 10 games in 1964.
Okay, so he's still not completely done.
Yeah. But then he kind of just moves into a coaching role with the team. He helped Boog Powell, Kurt Blefary, and Pete Ward with their hitting. Mm-hmm. Easter would finish his career with 351 home runs. That tally started at age 31.
Wow. So as you said, if he had got a chance when he was 20 years old,
yeah,
you know, add another, well, I mean, that's almost 20 years of play time.
Yeah.
But if you add another, you know, half of that.
Yeah. Well, and in the unofficial
home runs.
In the unofficial tallies that Adam sent me as well, there was some great research that he sent me, like just looking at the unofficial games and stuff like that, whether it was with the Negro Leagues or whether it was winter ball and stuff like that. You know, you're looking at least probably 200 more home runs on top of that.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. So despite leaving the game would never leave him. His wife, Virgil Easter, would say, I quote, "Even after he stopped playing, he would dream about baseball. He'd be shaking, shaking, shaking. I'd say, 'Luke, what's wrong?' He'd say, 'Nothing. I was just running.' I could always tell when it was spring training because that's where Luke's dreams were."
Oh, okay. So this is when he was asleep.
Yeah.
He'd be dreaming about the game.
So Luke...
It's like my dog. He's always running in his dreams, too.
There you go, playing ball.
Yeah.
We all played ball in our dreams.
Yeah.
Luke and his wife, Virgil, would move back to Cleveland. Other than a short coaching stint with Cleveland in 1969, which was somehow necessary for pension benefits, but good for them.
Nice.
The hulking, sweet, mammoth power hitter, Luke Easter, would never work in baseball again. Luke opened a jazz club in Cleveland called the Majestic Blue Room, and by all accounts sounded like he was like a really big music guy. Really loved it. Also took a full-time job polishing air parts for TRW. Though he worked the night shift,
Airplane parts?
He's polishing airplanes. I don't know.
All right, that's a strange one.
That's probably still a job. Why don't you become an airplane polisher?
I'd rather be a riveter.
So, though he worked the night shift, he gained confidence of his coworkers and eventually becomes chief steward of the Aircraft Workers Alliance.
Right.
So he's a big union guy and, is the union rep.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
He, just like his teammates, is loved by his colleagues, and his kindness and authority were trusted. He was basically would go to the bank for his union people and back when banks were only open for 6 hours a day. So he'd go cash everybody's paychecks and make sure at the end of their shift they'd have money when they went home on Friday or whatever it was, so because they didn't have time to go to the bank.
Yeah.
So fellow employees, trusted him if they were like, hey, I gotta work this shift. Can you go to the bank and get my stuff? Yeah. So now's the part. What I don't want to do.
I was going to say, I didn't like the sound of that, yeah.
Yeah. March 29th, 1979, Luke Easter stepped out of the Cleveland Trust Company branch in Euclid, Ohio at 9 a.m. He had a bag full of cash, all for his coworkers.
Uh-oh.
Easter was carrying a small handgun for self-protection and sometimes would have a police escort, but that was not the case on March 29th.
Oh, shit.
2 men approached him and drew their guns. Easter refused to hand over the money, and I don't know if he went for his gun or just shit went bad, but both men fired.
Oh, man.
A sawed-off shotgun and a .38 caliber revolver. Yeah. So Easter shot.
It sounds like they almost cased him. That they were like, let's keep an eye on this guy. He always goes and gets a big bag of money, and he usually has cops. And today might be a perfect day because he has no cops with him.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Luke shot. 2 suspects flee. They end up in a police chase before crashing and having a shootout with the police, which ends with both perpetrators wounded. One of the men turned out to be a former employee that knew of Luke's arrangement.
Oh, no. Okay. A former employee of his?
Of the company that he was
right.
He knew he was going to be leaving the bank with a bag full of money. He knew he was. So you're right. They cased him.
Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah.
They were like...
They staked him out.
Yeah. Easter was rushed to hospital but pronounced dead on arrival. He left behind a wife and 6 children, along with 3 grandchildren at the time of his death.
Oh, what a tragedy.
Virgil Easter, his wife of 31 years, confirmed his birthday of August 4th, 1915, saying that it was the date written on the family Bible.
Oh, okay.
So thus, Easter had truly been 34 for his debut with Cleveland, and 63, sadly, when he died.
Right, that's pretty young. He's a young man.
Yeah. The shitheads that did it, Victor Pritchett and Roderick Thomas, survived their wounds and were charged with his murder. At trial 3 months after the murder, Thomas was convicted by jurors who rejected his story that Easter owed him $500 from a card game, which...
Right, and fuck you.
You don't get to kill somebody.
Yeah.
No, he owed me money.
Oh, yeah. What a defense.
A judge...
Especially, I mean, not that it justifies it at any point in history, but, I could see you trying that defense in, the 1910s or 20s or something. But, 1979, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, it's atrocious no matter what. But luckily, there was some justice for Easter. A judge sends him away for life, plus an additional life term for shooting at the police officers. A few months later, Pritchett pled guilty and received 15 years to life, and he would die in prison 15 years later.
Oh, so he almost made it out, and then
who knows?
Karma in the universe was like, fuck you, bud.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 4,000 people attend Luke Easter's funeral, or at least a public viewing, and over 1,000 attended the funeral itself. Former teammates Bob Kane, Mike Garcia, Al Rosen, and Bob Levin, as well as longtime Cleveland sports writer Hal Leibowitz and Indians team president Gabe Paul were among those serving as honorary pallbearers. Mm-hmm. The Cleveland Plain Dealer editorialized the day after Luke Easter's death, and I quote, "For all of his huge size and great strength, Luke Easter was a gentle man. It is a contradiction to the way in which he lived that his life should be ended violently. He had courage. He played first for the Cleveland Indians from 1949 to 1954, a time when it was far from easy to be a black athlete in the major leagues. His death is a wound to the community. Luke Easter, athlete and gentleman, will be missed."
That's a very sad turn to that story, Sean. Basically how you described him the whole time is he carried himself with grace through some terrible times. Yeah. And, it is quite a tragedy for him to have an end to his life in such a violent way. Yeah. Especially because, the only reason he really had those bags of cash is because he was trying to help people out.
He was trusted.
Yeah.
Everybody liked him.
Yeah.
Imagine someone being like, "I'll go pick up your paycheck and bring it back to you."
Yeah, and then they get shot in the street.
Well, or just the trust that you'd have to put into somebody to not take off with the money too, right? Of course.
Right. I wouldn't trust you to get my paycheck.
Oh. I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go call your boss.
Yeah.
Hey, give it to me. I just need to fuck with him.
He might do that.
So there's no doubt Luke Easter was a good man, and had the ability to be a major leaguer long before he ever got the chance. People still reflect on Easter's amazing baseball career to this day and wonder what could have been had baseball been desegregated sooner. Uh-huh. Al Rosen, a former teammate, said, and I quote, "Too bad he didn't come up to the majors 15 years earlier. He could hit the ball as far as anyone who ever walked." Luke's manager, Del Baker, shared the same sentiments, saying, and I quote, "I've seen a lot of powerful hitters in my time, but for sheer ability to knock the ball great distances, I've never seen anybody better than Easter, and I'm not accepting Babe Ruth."
Oh, wow. Those are really strong words to say. And as I said earlier, it sounds like, he could just take a light swing at the ball, and if he managed to hit it in the right spot, it was going to sail.
Yeah. Despite his circumstances, Luke Easter lived a good life and made the most of the time he got in pro baseball, even at a geriatric age for a ball player. Buffalo baseball historian Joe Overfeld says, and I quote, "Never in the city's sports history has an athlete made such an impact on the community." When told by a fan one time that he had seen Easter's longest home run in person, Easter had reportedly replied to the young fan, "If it came down, it wasn't my longest."
What a quote.
And to finish it off, from Justin Murphy's Sabre bio, I will finish, and I quote, "Any attempt to recount Easter's life, however, should place the most emphasis on the impression he made upon the people who had the pleasure of meeting him, no matter how briefly. He was adored by teammates and fans in every city he played in, even as one of the first black ball players in the PCL, the Major Leagues, and the International League. His demeanor was always positive, and he refused to be discouraged by the racism he often encountered."
Well, Sean, that's a great story. A great story of a great tragedy about a person who sounded like was a great player and an even better person. Yeah. So that adds to the tragedy of the story. But anyway.
Well, yeah, and it just sucks that he had his life ended short, and it sucks that if he had gotten his shot at the majors at 20, I think he hits 500 home runs.
Right.
I don't think he's Hank Aaron.
No, but
I think
he certainly gets 500, maybe even 600.
Nah, I don't. And he was basically a mobile for the last 7 years of his career. He just stood at first base and just blasted home runs.
Yeah.
I just love that. So It's crazy that he didn't even get like a shot. World War II fucked with his career. St. Louis just not having a pro team fucked with his career.
Yeah.
Like segregation fucked with his career. And he was just so classy about it all, and like just was so happy and nice.
Right.
Like, I don't know, man. It was a cool story, but of course, like what drew me to it initially was unfortunately hearing about how he was murdered.
Right. Well, that's usually what our stories are on this podcast, unfortunately. But
yeah,
but that was a great one. That was a bit of a turn. Normally, you're talking about pieces of shit, but not Luke Easter by the sounds of things.
No, I got some pieces of shit on the way this season, definitely. Okay. But Luke Easter was an angel among men. Eddie, where can people find us?
Thanks for listening, everybody. People can find us on social media at Doing Baseball or at Doing.Baseball. One of those will work for whatever platform you're looking for us on.
And wherever you're listening, however you're listening, thank you, and give us a review, give us a follow, give us a rating, tell your friends, and until next time, I'm Sean.
And I'm Eds.
And we were doing baseball. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay, bye.